תן לצה"ל משימה, הוא יודע לבצע אותה. בכל מקום על הגלובוס, בצורה מוצלחת.
48 years ago, a French jet airliner took off from Israel for France. The commercial flight stopped at Athens. It got hijacked. The plane was flown to Entebbe in Uganda by the hijackers, and 258 passengers who did not look Jewish or Israeli were let off. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine claimed responsibility. They were being helped by the German left radical outfit, Red Army faction. Their demands: release militants imprisoned in Israel, Germany, Kenya and elsewhere, or the hijackers would begin executing hostages within 48 hours. It all happened on June 27th, 48 years ago. What did Israel do to rescue its people? Well, to put it simply, they attained legendary status in top-secret counterinsurgency operations and commando warfare. This is the story of the raid on Entebbe, Israeli military's crowning glory, something the world had never seen before up until the middle of the last century, something which even Hollywood has attempted to replicate. A raid that made Syeret Matkal the fearsome entity it is today.
היחידה בסיירת מטכ"ל למעשה היו שני תפקידים. תפקיד אחד זה להשתלט על הטרמינל הישן, ממנו הוחזקו בני הערובה ולשחרר אותם.
As we talk about Operation Entebbe, something even more groundbreaking has shaken the world. Pages exploded across Lebanon on 17th September. Hundreds were injured, several dead. Then, hours later, walkie-talkies, radios and phones began exploding. It was open season on Hezbollah militants in Lebanon. Even as Iran's proxies batter Israel from multiple fronts, a new era of warfare may have just dawned on humanity.
To my knowledge, there's no U.S. involvement in this at all. Again, it's something that we're monitoring.
The U.S. has washed its hands off the 1,000-plus explosions that rocked Beirut. A Taiwanese company claims the pages were built in the Hungarian capital of Budapest. The Hezbollah has blamed Israel. The internet is going gaga over Mossad, and Tel Aviv is playing it coy.
אני חושב שכאשר אתם מסתכלים על תמונת המצב, צה"ל מביא הישגים מצוינים, יחד עם שב"כ, יחד עם מוסד, על כל הגופים ועל כל המסגרות, והתוצאות הן תוצאות מאוד מרשימות.
Has the raid on Entebbe just been outdone? Was this the biggest surgical strike in history by the Jewish state? Why Page is going boom in Lebanon worries the whole world. Why are we talking about Entebbe after Hezbollah blasts? By July 3rd, Israel had dispatched 4 C-130H Hercules cargo planes. Each supposedly had 100 to 200 Israeli commandos. Trained for perfect kills and smooth operations, this squad was given the unenviable task of bringing home passengers that seemingly had no chance to survive a hostage ordeal. Remember, this is an era of hijackings we are talking about. Airport security was ill-equipped. Militaries were inexperienced with hostage situations in closed spaces, and the operation was to be carried out in Uganda, under the brutal regime of Idi Amin. The deck was stacked against the rescuers. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Avi Moore, a veteran of Operation Entebbe and an Israeli hero himself, recounts how the hostages were separated by the hijackers.
It was a similar selection process the Nazis administered when selecting who would go work and who would be sent to the gas chambers.
This is an era we are talking about when intelligence gathering was not as advanced as today. The Israeli commandos were going in blind. Lieutenant Colonel Moore describes it as operating with minimal clarity. The rescuers left Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh, making their way to Entebbe, flying at a height of no more than 30 meters to avoid detection. On 4th of July, 1976, as Americans celebrated their Independence Day, Israeli commandos stormed the hijacked plane at Entebbe airport, even as Idi Amin's Uganda government stayed in the dark about the operation. The IDF claims out of the first plane that landed at Entebbe, 2 jeeps and a black Mercedes rolled out. The luxury car was meant to mimic the Ugandan president's own vehicle. At the helm of operations was none other than Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu. Yes, Benjamin Netanyahu's brother, who eventually laid down his life to rescue the hostages. He was the only Israeli military casualty in the operation, gunned down in a hail of gunfire from Ugandan forces as he escorted hostages to safety.
אנחנו רצים ולא חולפים כמה מטרים ומתחיל מטח של יריות, ואחרי שנייה, 2, יוני נפגע.
As we remember the innovative raid on Entebbe on African soil, something unprecedented is happening in the Middle East. The pages that exploded in Lebanon have left many questions unanswered. The first being who, if anyone, was behind the blasts. How did they manage to put in explosives in the mass-manufactured communications device? Reports have surfaced that 3 grams of explosives were put in around 5,000 pages. From claims of sabotage during supply chain to a well-planned and executed operation from scratch are floating. But Israel holds its tongue. In the face of multi-front wars being pounded by rocket, missile barrage by Iran proxies, Israel has probably resorted to another of their innovative strike-back tactics.
The Israeli military declined comment on both incidents. However, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant declared what he called a new phase of the war, as Israel focuses attention less on Hamas in the Gaza Strip and more towards Hezbollah. Now, these devices for Hezbollah are a means for them to sidestep what's believed to be intensive Israeli electronic surveillance on Lebanese telephone networks, especially as clashes continue for over 11 months. The international community is still scrambling to cease hostilities as they fear the ongoing exchange could spiral into a full-scale war.
Entebbe operation may have been outdone. Are Lebanon Blasts another striking example of how Israel teaches its enemies a lesson?